welcome, Gabe. Listen, I'm telling you, I wanted to have you on all week. You know why? You saw the best movie one of the best movies of the film festival, called Astronaut. You personally saw it. I need you to come a little closer to the mic because you have such a good voice.
Oh God.
Let me get your name. Cymbalista.
Gabriel Cymbalista.
Gabe is, I should mention, my sidekick in this podcast series. Gabe, you're a filmmaker yourself. Let's face it, you're a musician, but
Yes.
let me say this: you're a piano player. That's first, and then you love film, and you've been helping out with the Long Beach International Film Festival for 3 to 4 years now. You're a wonderful person. Just want to get that out to our audience first.
Not to be too modest about it.
But honestly, I have you on not as a filmmaker, but as a film viewer, because you watch
connoisseur
of film.
I'm very passionate
but
about.
Particularly talking about this film you saw, and I wasn't lucky enough to do it. You were moved by it. Tell me about it.
So, following the little post red carpet premiere of the event of the film screening, I've always loved Richard Dreyfuss, and I know everybody usually has Jaws as their favorite, but Mr. Holland's Opus is my favorite, because of the music aspect at the very least, and for a number of other reasons. But as somebody who's always loved music and movies, and who's played piano for actually this month, either this week or next week, 24 years, music just stands out to me. And I can be a softie when it comes to a lot of films, including Mr. Holland's Opus, but Astronaut, I watched the trailer, and I was looking forward. I knew it was going to be good, and I was really... It stood out to me, not just because, I met Richard once, and I know I know some of his family, and one of the co-stars is from his Lyric Bent is from some of my favorite movies. But I went in to see it, and he was running late. I ran down to get a drink, and still they were doing trailer or promos, but from the beginning, it was laughing, I was crying, but
That's what a movie should do.
Oh yeah, it was able to. It can hit you in the. I'd say not to hit you in the feels. It was emotional on a lot of conflicting levels, from both a happy and sad, but it hit very close to home. I don't want to give any spoilers. It's against my religion to ruin movies for people or TV shows. But it was on not just a personal level, but just somebody who admires. Like, I could watch a film that I love and still see flaws, and I could watch a film that I really don't like and still see positives on a filmmaking level, or a music, or a cinematography, or a style, or a shot that I could admire even if I don't like the film. But Astronaut it blew me away, and as somebody who's usually doesn't get let down by a lot of movies he really wants to see, Astronaut actually blew me out of the water.
You said it was the best movie of the year for you.
For me, it was one of my top movies of the year, and and it's one of those indie films that really, I believe it's an indie film, but if it's not, regardless, if it was one of the most...
Hour and 37 minutes, which I like that timing.
Yeah, and I sat through the whole thing, and I realized that Richard was also, I think, one of the executive producers as well.
I'm sure.
Him and Lyric Bent. But, and I also like Colmfia, or I think that's how you pronounce it, who from Stephen King films, but on a personal level, it was really emotional. I had a grandmother who died of Alzheimer's, and not necessarily that his character, but there was certain scenes in an old age home which were humorous, but also very, very, very touching, but also very sad.
Yeah, I can see this movie really affected you. That's great. It's making me want to see it. Can I see this movie now that I missed it?
I'm sure you can see it. People are asking, when I posted my little review of it on social media, and people are asking me where can I watch it. I still got to figure that out for them. But I thought of so many people throughout watching it. People I know, both family and friends, both gone and
wonderful. Did you ever think about becoming a film reviewer?
People,
I mean that.
People tell me for years I should start a blog, but strictly on horror films, because I love horror films. But I grew out into old types of loving old genre. I'm not a big fan of, let's say, some genres of music, both music and movies, but I could still love a certain song in a genre I'm not a big fan of.
Right. What's your favorite horror series?
So, horror is my favorite genre. Now, though I don't consider Saw a horror, hence Lyric Bent is one of the Saw actors, but though I don't consider, consider more of a psychological thriller than a horror, because there are, I see the underlying message in there that a lot of people don't see.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people have heard me tell this over and over. I've actually interviewed in Toronto Star article about this before an event, Saw Cruise I went on a few years ago, but.
So you've been on the movie set of Saw?
No, I've never been on the movie set. I know some of the cast. I've been on private and public events, seeing them, and some of them told me I know more about them than they do, or tell me I know too much. We would embarrass each other, and I would accidentally say something that they didn't know about them when we would all laugh about it afterwards. It was really funny.
Right.
But people ask me how many times I've watched each film, and I think I lost count. It's a few hundred at the least. I just, I'm one of those movies.
Do you have OCD?
I have OCD. I have CDO. It's OCD in alphabetical order. I'm a walking smorgasbord of disabilities. I have Tourette's, so, people, especially something like Astronaut, where you see people who both can be sympathetic and empathetic, and people who have neither. Mm-hmm. Unless they realize there's something that must in a situation must be fixed, where they grow that empathy or sympathy. But as my mother was a teacher, for many years, she just retired recently. I never learned the difference between sympathy and empathy in school. I learned
there is a difference.
There is a difference. Sympathy, you feel for somebody else. Empathy is because you're able to feel
for others.
And I've never they try to teach kids that, and I see my mother's a teacher and I was a student, so obviously I see both ends of stuff that people deal with. But
you just taught me something.
Yeah. So
there's a big word going around called empath. I'm an empath. What's that? So
some people say it as a negative thing, or some people say it as a positive thing, but some is a negative, positive with a negative. Certain negative connotations at times.
Okay.
But I learned it through my own struggles with disabilities and stuff, and being bullied throughout, whatever, never really physically, but I'd rather be an empathetic person who deals with his own, I'll say shtick, part of my lack of Tourette's, or just because there's nothing nice to say it in Yiddish. But I'd rather be somebody who's empathetic, who deals with struggles that hurt him. Because I embrace the pain, but it does get a lot from me. But I'd rather be that type of person who can help, who's willing to be there,
then be on the offensive aggressive
than be
side.
somebody who gets pleasure out of causing somebody else pain.
Yeah, that happens a lot. But then again, you like the Saw movies, and that's what the freaking whole basis is.
No. Well, for me, the Saw movies are like, a lot of people view his character as a murderer, but he, for me, it's like it's the underlying messages behind it is about, he strictly does it to bad people, but he puts them in situations where they're instantly rehabilitated if they've survived. But it's I deal with a lot of innocence. Like, even in this movie, a lot of innocent people suffering at the hands of no empathy or no understanding, to the extent where
this movie went deep for you. Now,
hit very deep.
Why are you not following the rules on the 10-minute rule? We are going over. I would just like to say
because
this.
we
have a filmmaker here, so I'm going to go like this. I'm going to give you the cut sign, and I'm going to say, honestly, thank you for all your volunteerism for the Long Beach International Film Festival. Always. You're always the greatest. Thank you, brother.
Rock on.